Joy and Gina will talk about a particular project in the East Falls neighborhood and kind of integrating that community participation process. Joy suggested using this, and I thought it was a wonderful idea. Let me find my notes now. The stormwater guiding principles, these actually came out of a project that we initially, the Office of Watersheds initially worked with the Horticultural Society on this program or project of utilizing vacant land along the 3rd Street corridor in North Philadelphia, kind of imagining how those lands could be used for stormwater management purposes. And then PHS took it further, and actually I believe Michelle Adams worked on this as well, developing this this publication, Housing and Water, Sinking Neighborhood Development, Stormwater Management, and Open Space. And here are some of the guiding principles. And just wanted to use this as sort of a framework for our later discussion. That design of green infrastructure should be given the same consideration in design as other infrastructure and utility design work. All right, that kind of says it all right there, that we really ought to treat it as infrastructure. Community benefit, that when thinking about our stormwater management measures, we should strive to provide additional community benefits beyond simply managing stormwater. Here's one of the images on the screen from this book. But let me go through the other. Environmental benefit, we've alluded to this before, that stormwater management should seek to provide additional environmental benefits. Close to source management simply means manage the runoff where it falls, or the rainfall where it falls, trying to get us close to managing the runoff where it's falling. And visibility and accessibility, don't hide it. Make sure that our stormwater is visible, accessible to the public. There really is a compelling story to tell to people by making the stormwater systems visible. And then the last 3 here, energy use. We should design systems where we can that don't require any energy. So rely upon gravity, for instance, and not having to pump water. Try to design for as little maintenance as possible. That's going to be critical. I'm sure this will come up. The maintenance of systems is going to be a really big issue. And then this idea of managing within the public right-of-way. And especially, so what our conference here today is all about, developing strategies for promoting the capture and management of stormwater within the public rights-of-way, managing street and sidewalk runoff especially. And the last image here, just looking at these different sort of scales or levels of stormwater management, I thought this was a really interesting diagram. The residential public space, the street right-of-way, but we need to consider it all and how they all interact or fit into each other. So I just wanted to begin with that. Joy and Gina will talk about their experience in East Falls.
It's after lunch. There's a parade somewhere out there. So congratulations and thank you for those of you who are willing to stick with the program today. And you must be rewarded, and we must acknowledge the Philadelphia. So I'm asking everybody to stand up right now. Come on, up. And we're going to do a little Let's Go Philly. Come on. Let's go Phillies, let's go Phillies, let's go Phillies, let's go Phillies, let's go Phillies. Yeah! Let's go Phillies, let's go Phillies, let's go Phillies. All right, we'll put a little energy back in the room now. I don't want anyone to feel that you're here and you missed out on an exceptional experience in the public realm. So, just imagine what we just did at scale, 1 million people, they're all over there. They're moving away now, and they're clearing out the traffic corridor. So this is one of the few conferences where you get paid a benefit by staying late on a Friday. So thank you. And Gina and I are here to talk a little bit about a project that we conceived and presented to the William Penn Foundation for funding. And it goes to the heart of something that was brought up at the panel right before lunch, which is about, bringing vision to community. And what I want to say without disrespecting anyone, and I know Gina and I talked a little bit about this, is that there's something fundamentally amiss when government or agencies bring a vision to a community and then ask them to buy it. You know, it makes the wall really hard to get over. And I think where we're coming from in our years of experience as a community organizer and as the Horticultural Society and the 30-plus years that we've put in out there on the streets working with grassroots community is that you begin in the community. That's where it has to happen. On a whole bunch of different levels it has to happen with the community. But one way that you can really bring your vision to the community is to allow them to participate in creating that vision. And I want to, if you came away with nothing else from the presentation that I have to say today, I think that's really, really important. Begin at the grassroots, work with the people, get their input, get their responses, bring them along on the party with you. Don't talk about, so often what happens in the community planning process is we get to the end point, we figured out what's right for the community, we know what they're going to want, we know what's good for them, because we're planners and we're good people and we have great intentions. And then we go out in the community and they're like, what? We went too far down the road without our partners, and it's all about the partnership. So I just wanted to, start in that place. So with the East Falls project, we have kind of two layers. We imagined a process that had goals to create a model process for how you could engage community on something that's pretty darn technical, stormwater management at the neighborhood scale. Like, wow, okay, I'm a neighbor, and why should I care about that? So, we wanted to start with how you could engage community, what kind of system could you put out in place that would be replicable in other cities and towns and neighborhoods. And then we wanted to really think about actually creating some designs that would work in a pretty tough neighborhood. East Falls, if you don't know it, is on a very steep slope. It's really East Falls. There are falls there. It's where the Piedmont Plateau really meets the Atlantic coastal plain. So it's a very challenging environment, and there's not a lot of space to do things along the river edge. You have to deal with stormwater in a decentralized kind of way. So those were the first two goals. And I guess I was supposed to say something about myself. My title is actually Manager Environmental Initiatives, which is a cool title. It is. And it's a cool job. And in fact, I'm a very lucky person because I love my work and I love the people I work for and the people I work with. Philadelphia Green, which is part of the Horticultural Society, you might know them as the flower show best, but we've been doing greening community gardens for a number of years. The Office of Watersheds, they're all here. They're infiltrated into the system here. I won't say too much about them. And the East Falls Neighborhood Community Development Corporation, which Gina can say a word about in just a minute. These are the three partners on this project. And as I said, our goals were dual. We wanted to create a process model, and we wanted to create templates for design. And I'm not going to go into the really detailed end products or how we got there, but just to say the Horticultural Society staff, landscape architects, together with some engineering support from the water department, we did a lot of analysis, and we actually came up with identifying 5 key locations around East Falls that really made sense for community, for stormwater projects in the public realm. And these are all public sites. And again, I'm just going to kind of skim over. If you'd like to get more information on the project in detail, please see me after and I'll point you to our FTP site. And Gina can also, where you can download and get the full report. But what I want to say is that we laid the groundwork in our process by getting a lot of technical data and identifying some key sites, and then we actually called the community together and asked them to think about what stormwater designs would look like at these 5 sites. Now that's a huge leap to invite, John Q. Public to design a stormwater infrastructure piece. So what do I really mean by that? Well, in all reality, what we actually did was we sort of laid out some examples of best management practices and said, here's a site, and here's some precedent images, some pictures from some other places. What do you think fits? What would look good? What feels right to you about these places? So it's really a way of data gathering from the community and pulling that together and creating a sort of baseline of raw material for which the experts and technical experts can then begin to think and advance the process. And I'm going to leave it there and let Gina talk a little bit about what it felt like from the community side and how that worked.
The non-technical piece of this, I have, if you read my bio, you won't see anything in there about the environmental engineering pieces of any of what's been talked about today. So the challenge here is when you start talking about doing anything to public or private property, you run into some real issues of community engagement, and those are, you know, the hot buttons of community work are hitting, you know, what people resist. People resist change. There's a lot of fear about something as simple as like a stormwater bump out on a street. When I initially proposed bump outs to respond to traffic concerns in the neighborhood, traffic calming, and the initial reaction, and it was before this project really got going, was that any kind of rain garden is a bad idea. It appears to be dangerous. Children could drown in it. Mosquitoes could breed in it. You would be taking parking spaces. This does not make sense in a residential neighborhood. That was actually very educational. So we start off with a goal of changing attitudes to engage people in the community, to then move on to support what would be good public projects. And the way that we did it is by really marketing to motivation and not by doing what is called outreach and education. What you have to do, and I really want to give Mindy Lemoyne a lot of credit, is to work with folks and really think about what motivates them to make changes and get engaged. And I can tell you it was very educational when we asked people to come to the stormwater charrette. We did not use the word stormwater or charrette. Whoops. We ended up talking about poop watch, but I think that's important. We talked to people about what do you want to see in your neighborhood, what kind of design changes. People don't have this kind of vocabulary about stormwater. So that's the way that we got people to meetings. We found out people were really, really interested in the 5 locations that were chosen that related to stormwater. They were interested in them because of neighborhood issues and their identification with those areas like the train station or the water reservoir, because that was part of their neighborhood and they felt like it gave a message about their neighborhood. They really didn't have an understanding of these areas in terms of stormwater or rainwater. So instead we went to, you know, really thinking about motivations of folks. So here, and the other piece is, and I think this is pretty important, is that when you talk about doing any kind of public project, if people in the neighborhood, and I'm assuming this is not just in Philadelphia, if they think something is a bad idea, they will stop it. They are very effective. I happen to live in a neighborhood, and I actually see a number of neighbors here who can testify that if people in our neighborhood don't like something, they are very effective at stopping it. So we have to think about ways that people can actually support projects, and that's to engage them. So we decided that if we're going to do some major public projects like bump outs on a major street, we had to also think about what motivates people in their own house, how do you connect what they might do in their own house and block to then thinking about, well, on a bigger scale and a public project scale. So for instance, a rain barrel is a water quality device that someone would be using at their house. Why don't people use rain barrels? Because they are ugly. People are very proud of their houses and their gardens, and they don't want a big ugly plastic bucket in front of their house or behind their house where they have a garden. So we had a competition for a rain barrel type device with Philadelphia University, and they came up with some interesting ideas for rain barrels to motivate people. The other thing that we found out is that folks are blocking in the area between their sidewalk and the curb. That is oftentimes an opportunity for green space. Why are they blocking it in? Because our little friends, the dog lovers, are walking their dogs around the neighborhood and allowing the dogs to defecate in these green spaces, and people get really sick of picking it up. So we had a consultant in to talk to us about, what might motivate people to get rid of that problem. And this idea here, this is marketing to motivation. The idea with this Poop Watch is to really focus, instead of just saying, don't let your dog do this here, you're a bad person, stop, which is what a lot of people do. They put up those little signs that say don't do this, and then you see the little pile next to the sign. Then this idea was thinking, well, what does motivate people in our neighborhood? It may be peer pressure, that your neighbors are watching you, please do not misbehave. And so instead of it being the animal is the miscreant, it is the eyes are watching you. So that's sort of thinking about what motivates people and their behavior. The other piece that we're going to be working on is working block by block in the neighborhood and trying to do some marketing pieces that say, how your street could look different. And Philadelphia University and a consultant is going to help us in the next phase of this project to get out some materials to folks that really have to do with what drives them to change. In this case, it says add trees, add value. So it has to do, that may not be our ultimate pitch, but the idea is to really focus on what motivates people. I think that might be it in terms of what we have done up to now. We're going to be moving forward and really trying to work in a parallel process as this project moves forward with doing some public design work, but then also really working with residents in terms of what can they do on their own streets. And then we get to the education, the sort of cod liver oil that all folks with technical information want to convey to people about how important this is. That information will come out in this process. It's just not the leading piece of information.
The trees at the train station.
Okay. Well, Chris also wants me to note that we've moved forward on the project in a significant way. One other piece in the project was to work on our train station. And folks in the neighborhood were very embarrassed about the train station, East Falls Station, on the R6 regional rail line. Then, as a result of us finding out that, we had a huge project that just occurred on October 1st, where we basically had the station renovated, the landscape, thousands of dollars of work that we put into it, and SEPTA and Philadelphia University, and planted 47 new trees. And that was really good for the runoff problem, just a start, let's say, for that station. We've got a rain barrel there, too, thanks to the water department for an educational piece. And the whole idea is to sort of get people a little more pride about that station, and then we're going to be looking forward to doing a huge change in that station into the future.